Hey, this is Bernie Borges, host of the Social Business Engine podcast, along with my co-host Dayle Hall, Senior Vice President of Marketing at Lithium Technologies. Welcome to episode 2 of this UpClose Podcast series, the 5 most influential topics for B2B marketing. On episode 1, we covered influencer marketing. On episode 2, we're going to discuss data overload and how you harness it. So Dayle, how does the B2B marketer harness all the data that's available to them?
Well, I think you've pretty much hit the hardest topic for any marketer out there today, because the pressure is on all of us to use data. I get more requests now from colleagues from other areas of the business, from my e-staff colleagues around what are we doing with the marketing data? What are we doing with the sales data? And let me give you some context for this. There was a recent study by LinkedIn looking at their audience, and they found that only 10% of the marketers that they spoke to feel they're getting the right, or feel they're getting any kind of data-driven marketing right. Wow. 10%.
Wow.
Now, how many marketers do you think are on LinkedIn? Millions? Probably. Right? Now, I'm sure millions didn't answer the survey, but
right.
But clearly that is a very small amount. And I think part of this comes from there is multiple sources, there's multiple channels, there's external as well as internal data. You need expertise within your teams to analyze it. You need to know how to use it. There's so many things that you can do with data. There's so many ways to collect it. I think it's just, for a lot of marketing people right now, they're probably, if they're listening to this, they're like, yep, that's exactly how I feel.
Yep.
And I think from my
side,
side,
it every day, Dayle, every day.
I'm sure you do. So I think from my side, I try and think about this in 3 different ways. I think about it in terms of the people that you have looking at it. I look at the process that you have, how you're managing it, and then how you actually harness and potentially visualize or use it, which is based around the technology. Mm-hmm. So I think of it in people, process, and technology.
Okay.
So let me start with the people. So first of all, one of the biggest challenges, but the most critical in being a successful data-driven marketer, is hiring the right people. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to hire the exact person for the exact job that you're looking to achieve. But what you do need to do is, there's a couple of skill sets that I think are important. First of all, it's someone that understands the marketing funnel, understands all the elements of how you bring in leads at the top, what you need to do to nurture them down, and how you actually work with your sales team to close, to actually take them to opportunity. So someone that understands, I would say, more of that performance mentality of marketing.
Okay.
Then you need someone that understands data. And I'm not, we have some data scientists here, but you don't have to be a fully fledged data scientist. Like we have a guy called Dr. Wu, who's probably the smartest guy I've ever met, but just someone...
Well, he's got doctor in his name, so...
So he's already a step above marketing. But someone that can actually look at the data and be able to channel and analyze it in the right way. And that could be someone that actually uses, knows how to feed it into a tool like Domo or Tableau or some other visualization tool. So, but they understand what the data means, where it's coming from, make sure there's some integrity in it, and then they know how to feed it into a tool to view it in the right way. Now, those 2 people I just talked about, so they have to work closely together. Someone that understands the funnel, someone that understands the data. And then the final part from a people perspective, is someone that then can interpret and output the data into demand gen or other types of marketing programs. Now, ideally, you can find one person, a very smart individual, that can do all of that. But if you can't, then you need to look at you can look at agencies to help, you can look at different expertise and have them work together. But at least from the most important thing around people is understanding those three roles, to understand the funnel, understand how to use data, and be able to interpret and apply it. Those are the three key things you need for your organization.
So it sounds like you need both left brain and right brain, whether it's one person or a team of people.
Exactly.
You need them both. Okay. Cool.
Exactly. And it's hard to find, but they're out there. You've just got to be, very selective. Oh, and by the way, everyone is looking for them. So
right.
when you find them, make sure you treat them right.
Yep.
So that's the first element in looking at data and making sure you can harness it is the people. The second part is the process. So you need to have the right process to pull in that data. So how are you gathering the data? Are you listening for it? Are you looking at social channels? Are you looking at community? Are you looking at SEO? Are you looking at paid? Are you doing user testing? Are you doing in-store? If maybe that's more consumer side, but you look at all the data sources and how are you bringing that back in? And you also have to have, in terms of your process, make it this performance-driven mentality. And what I mean by that is, so you have someone that knows how the funnel works. That mentality has to cross across all of the marketing people in the organization. And frankly, it has to go beyond the marketing people. The organization, the brand that you work for, needs to understand that marketing is very, very focused on getting the right data, leveraging it, and how it feeds into the funnel. I can tell you a story here that there are a couple of people in my team who started out as different types of roles and pretty much said to me right at the start, like, oh, I don't want to be in the analytics. I don't need to, I don't do that. I just want to kind of stay on the content side or the comms side. And what's been very interesting and satisfying for me is the more that they've got into the process and realize how much it can help their role, they're now converts. Now, I don't expect them to go into business analytics anytime soon, but they certainly know the value of data and they certainly know how it can help them. So having that mentality in every process, I think, is important.
Okay. Well said. And that's a great example.
Yeah. And then I think the being able to, the second part of that process, once you've brought that in and had that mentality, is make sure you're leveraging the process, make sure you share it across the organization, and just constantly be learning and repeat and learn and repeat and try something new. And I think that's one of the other things I talk a lot about with my team, actually, is we want you to try something new. It's okay to fail. Don't fail too often. That
sure.
might, that's not a trend we want to continue. But try something new. Try a different process. Try a different program and keep learning. Because I think that's important as well. You have to be in an environment where if you're really going to use data, it's not always easy to say, I can absolutely interpret everything about it. So I would say process around performance, interpretation, testing, rinse and repeat. I would say those are the key parts of that second bullet, which is basically process.
Yep. Of course, it feeds into the third one, technology, right? You can't have a process, you can't streamline a process without technology.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a tons of technology out there, whether you're using, a tool like social media management tool that we have at Lithium, which allows you to look at to publish and respond to people on social channels and then analyze the engagement and the usage and when's the best time to post content. So whether it's that kind of tool that gives you that data, or whether it's a visualization tool, as I mentioned, something like Domo or Tableau, that enables you to really get that visual representation of how things are performing, which, by the way, for us, we share with all our e-staff members so they can clearly see where marketing is in terms of performance on programs, where we are in performance on pipeline. Like we hold ourselves very accountable and we're very transparent. And the good thing about that is the technology enables us to do that. But anything really, any technology, whether you're leveraging traffic, whether you're looking at Google Analytics data and how you build that in through the Google tool, whether you're using just your CRM data to look at you tailor your CRM to show you what's active in the pipeline and how that links to marketing generated activities. Or you're looking at your marketing automation tool like Marketo, for example. There's so many things that so many technologies that marketing uses these days, and I think that's good, but having them all potentially connect and link together so you can get that better data visualization, I think that's the key. It's not just having the technology, it's not just having the tools, it's trying to make them work together. So I would say, again, the three key elements in terms of how to harness the data is the right people and making sure they're the right skill set, making sure you have the right processes around how you bring in that data, how you're testing, and then making sure you have the right technology, not just to bring in that data, but to leverage, to learn, to visualize, and so on.
Yeah, and what I would add, Dayle, is that when you've got this approach of harnessing the people, the skills, the processes that you put in place, and then, of course, streamlining it through technology, then you really endear yourself to your stakeholders, most notably sales, especially when you're so transparent with them. It builds greater alignment and relationship and rapport and mutual respect, and you just can get more stuff done when you've got that kind of relationship in place with other stakeholders. Absolutely. And I would say, I just actually said to my team this morning, we have our marketing goals. We have the things we're trying to achieve. But make no mistake, we're here to make sales successful, to help them be successful. And the way to do that is to be transparent, is to show you have the right people, you're bringing in the right data, you're using it in the right way. And I know we're going to go and talk about this on another podcast, but once you can get marketing and sales really working well together, I mean, that is clearly the best outcome for any brand. There'll always be friction. There'll always be slightly, contradicting, individual goals of the team members and the organizations. But if that's humming, that is really what can differentiate your organization. Absolutely. Well, that's a sneak preview of episode 5, where we're going to tell a love story about marketing and sales. So back to episode 2, you shared a statistic earlier at the beginning of this episode on, I think it was a LinkedIn study that said only 10% of marketers actually are really comfortable with their use of data. Is there anything else that you're seeing out there in the way of statistics that just kind of opens our eyes as marketers to really the size of this issue, the importance of this issue?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something we talk about a lot at Lithium, because the way we look at digital customer experience is how you're managing your social channels, bringing them back to your other digital channels, your paid engagement, and so on. And one of the things that we just heard from Gartner recently, that 1%, I repeat that, 1% of organizations are doing anything to reconcile social and legacy customer data.
1%.
Yeah. Now,
wow.
That doesn't mean to say they're not doing things on social channels, but it means 99% of brands out there are not looking at what happens on their social channels and building that into their other marketing functions, or aligning that with their other marketing programs, which is staggering to me.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, particularly with the growth of social channels, right? Your customers are out there. They may not be customers yet, but the advocates are there, your customers, the prospects. So if you're not doing anything to reconcile social data, then you really are missing out. And clearly Gartner tells us they are missing out, so we need to change that. But the other thing we've talked about recently, so we did a poll with Harris. 52% of Americans are more willing to share personal information with a brand or a company if they can deliver a more personal experience. So think about that. Half of the people out there would give you more of their data if you promise to give them a better experience. That's pretty powerful, because we know where there's a lot of talk right now around personal information. There's GDPR going on in Europe, driven by the European markets around data privacy, and I think that if that is to be believed, that if you can actually provide a better experience, if you can provide some level of personalization, they're okay giving you that information. But at the same time, 2/3 of Americans also expect that the brands they do business with will know more about them today than they did a year ago. So what that means is, as we talked a little bit around when we talked about influencer marketing, it's not just knowing me now to get something that you want. It's knowing me now, and in a year's time, I expect you to still know that. I expect you to still remember that, and at some point, make sure that you offer me a better experience because you know all these things about me. And it's one of those examples you use where someone potentially tweets online at a brand that they're having a bad experience. They give them, they're engaging someone on Twitter, and then they have to actually go to a messaging platform, or they have to call in, and the person they speak to then doesn't know who they are again, and they give their details again. You've been there, right, Bernie?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? So we've all been there. You don't want to have to keep giving information. So customers, consumers, anyone, we're telling brands that we'll do more with you, and we're more likely to give you more information, but you've got to remember who we are. And I think that's one of the keys, and something we talk at Lithium a lot, which is to really use data to understand your customer. It goes beyond just saying, hey, they bought X, Y, and Z. You need to look at who they are in a non-creepy way, but you need to look at who they are, who they're engaging with, what they're saying, and you just need to listen. You need to have the tools internally to be able to monitor and leverage that in the future.
Absolutely. That also comes down to personalization, listening and personalizing, and then building that into your customer experience. And of course, we have a whole episode dedicated to the customer experience, so we won't steal too much thunder from that. But I know you've also got an example that you wanted to share about a brand that has really done a good job of harnessing data.
Yep, absolutely. And this one's dear to my heart. Being a Brit, the Post Office UK is not, I would say, the most exciting of brands ever created. It's the Post Office. It's the Post Office, right? But they've been around for hundreds of years. But what the Post Office UK are doing is incredible. So they launched a #LoveSundays real-time marketing campaign to basically try and dominate media for one day, and then leverage what they use our tools for, the Lithium social media management, to monitor and track awareness, customer engagement on social media. By using the tool, basically the team were able to surface all the customer data seamlessly across the organization. That helped them deliver personalized interactions, not just for the campaign, but after the campaign, and they maintained it. And then they used they used the cloud data to give a quick snapshot of what those individuals actually cared about. They then took those interests from the cloud data to tie it back to their Sunday, their campaign, their opening message with each individual user. So, for example, if you saw that someone was interested in gardening, then they opened up the opportunity for them to reply to the customer with a, kind of like, hey, are you planning on visiting a gardening center today on Sunday? Something that's very specific to them because they looked at what they cared about. That campaign, their #LoveSundays campaign, was a success. They had 2 million impressions on Twitter, and they basically had, and this is going to sound incredibly high and made up, but they had an 866% increase in their branch finder page based on those Sundays. So that means those people that would not normally care where the post office were, having engaged with some people online, the amount of people that were then looking at, oh yeah, I need to go and I forgot I need something there, I should look at it. They got more engagement, and they actually got some uplift on other parts of their digital channels based on what they did with the data from the social.
That's a great example, and I do want to point out, Dayle, that the post office is both a B2C and a B2B brand, because obviously businesses are using mail as well as consumers. So really fascinating story. Thanks for sharing that. Now, in keeping with your in-style reputation of being the best-dressed person at Lithium, I want to know, Dayle, what is in style this season for data in B2B marketing?
Very good question. Well, I think what's hot on the runway right now is, I think brands they're starting to figure out how critical it is to integrate different levels of data. It's not just the transaction. it's social, it's behavioral, it's all the elements of data you can get your hands on to really get a full customer picture. So I think what's hot is realizing you need to do it. I think there's still some growth and some challenges how you do it, but Lithium, there's a ton of other companies around different types of marketing and marketing technologies and analytic technologies can help you do that. And I think it's just incumbent on the brands to now say, yep, I know we have to do it. I just need to talk to the right people to help me do it.
Okay. Well, then what's on the runway for next season on data?
Yeah, and I think the way I would look at this is what I expect to see on the runway next year or in the coming season. Let's bring it back to the people I talked about earlier and why the people are so important. Imagine this is like the little black dress of the runway. What that means is the little black dress will always be in style. It will always be in fashion. It will always be in season. And I think the skill sets I talked about earlier will always be in season. So find the right talent and do what you can to keep them. Show them the value, give them the visibility, and really hold on to them because they could be the heroes in your organization. Those are the people that will help not just marketing, not just sales, but the whole company be more successful. So those talents I talked about earlier, those are the most fashionable people on the runway for this season and the coming season.
All right. Well, now we know what's in store for this season and for next season. And Dayle, I think that is a good wrap point for episode 2. So let's wrap it right here. The theme of this series is the 5 most influential topics for B2B marketing. This has been episode 2, Data Overload. How do you harness it? Hey, this is Bernie Borges, host of the Social Business Engine podcast, along with my co-host Dayle Hall, Senior Vice President of Marketing at Lithium Technologies. Join us for episode 3 of this series, where we'll discuss the digital customer experience is the new battleground. Remember, if you want to access all 5 episodes in this series in one recording, just go to socialbusinessengine.com and click on the UpClose On Demand podcast button. Dayle and I will see you on episode 3.